she just disappeared for a week. And I was like, something's wrong here. I tried to contact her sister. Her sister didn't know where she was. Tried to contact her family. They didn't know where she was. I actually hacked into her email. There was loads of messages between her and this guy from London. I went through her personal belongings and I found the print off that she stayed at this hotel in London. And it was under this name of the same chap that she was getting these emails from.
Hey folks, Pete here from Thairish Times. What's the story? The story is good over here. I'm at the end of kind of a bad head cold. And I've come out the tail end of a bad head cold. Anyway, you've seen the title, you've seen the intro, so you know what's in store in this interview. We're going to meet a guy called James. He's going to talk about his marriage to a Thai woman. So let's jump straight into it. I will say one thing. There are two sides to every story. We're here in James's side. Alright, I'll just say that. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the interview. If you like the interview, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment because it does help me out. Cheers.
Okay.
James, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Yeah?
Yep, I'm all good.
All good. Well, cheers for doing this. I appreciate you sitting down here and doing this interview. So, tell us where you're from.
England.
From England?
Yeah, Midlands.
Midlands, okay.
Yeah.
And you came to Thailand at a very young age.
Yeah. I was 18 when I first came. Would have been about, I want to say 2004. My first trip was when I was 18. Just 2 weeks. But I loved it so much. As soon as I got back home, back to work, 3 months later I was back out again, and I did fall in love with the country for various reasons. You know, all the obvious, all the stuff that everyone loves about Thailand. You know, the food, the women, everything. You know, it was like, it's almost. It sounds strange to say, but it's almost like I haven't lived until I came here and I realised what life was. If that makes sense. It sounds a bit, but it's like, you go to work, you know, you live your life how society tells you should live. Go to work, you know, pay your bills and all that. And there was no more to life until I came in and discovered that there was more to life. And I came back 3 months later, and you know, one of the reasons I came back 3 months later was I fell in love with a Thai girl that worked in this open massage parlour. So one of the reasons was to come out and spend some time with her and see her and see more of Thailand. And my mate that I came with the first time, 3 months prior to my second trip, came with me. And so it was like Thailand take two, I guess, like our second trip. But that holiday was very different to the first holiday. The first holiday was very much innocent, naive, hadn't got a clue. But this, like I say, this girl that I fell in love with from the open massage, she took care of both of us, really. She took care of me, and obviously my friend was with me, so she was like a tour guide. She looked after us. We actually were booked to stay a few nights in Bangkok in the first trip, and then fly over to Phuket for a week. And my mate lost his passport, like briefly lost his passport, and by the time we found it, we missed the flight. So it was a matter of rebooking, and we said, like, I was in love with this girl, so we said, forget it. We're not. At the time, we thought we're not missing anything. Oh, we'll forget. We're not missing anything. So we stayed in Bangkok, and this girl I was with took us to Hoi Hin and to Pattaya, like a few days each. So it was like, just words can't describe. You know, I'm being looked after, I'm being taken places and stuff like that. And I just fell in love with her. So I came back 3 months later with the same friend, mostly to meet this girl again, to spend time with this girl. And that was, I guess, together, I probably look at them as my first time. You know, only 3 months apart. That was my first.
And how did it work out with that girl?
Didn't. Second time I came out, I started to, like, because I overthink things, overanalyze things, so I started to think more about what am I doing. I mean, there was a lot going through my head. I was even looking at how to move out here, how to live out here, and back then I think it was a lot easier to come out here and teach English than it is today. You know, there's less requirements and stuff. So I really did look into it, and then something at the back of my mind is telling me, what you're doing, you know, come back to reality. You know, this is not feasible. You know, you can't survive out here. Because I'm quite an introvert person, and very sort of quite quiet and shy, and so I thought to myself, it's not, it's dreaming, come back to reality. So the relationship sort of come to a halt. By the time I was due to go black, she was in tears and the relationship was broken. So I was coming back with a broken heart, basically, from the second time I came out here.
Okay. So let's get into the questions about your ex-wife.
Yeah.
Where did you meet her?
Initially in England. After my first visit to Thailand, I sort of saw the potential of being, because when I was, the first time I came, the second time I came, it was only 3 months, but I obviously, those 3 months, I lived Thailand. It was in my brain, it was in my mind. Every day we went to work, Thailand, and I saw the potential, how dangerous it could be of becoming addicted. So I kicked it. I didn't think about, tried not to think about it. I managed to do it for 5 years. After my second trip, at the time I felt I woke up and saw sense. So I kicked it, like a recovering addict, even after a short period of time. And it wasn't till my next door neighbour, he was retiring, and I think he's been through a couple of Western marriages, and he was on this website at the time, which was called Thai Love Link. I think now it's Thai Cupid, or it's now Thai Friendly maybe. And he was come to ask me questions about Thailand, like I was an expert, which I wasn't really, but just come to ask me general questions. And he showed me this website he was using, and I guess it retweaked the flame or my curiosity. So I went on this website as well, and this website is where I met my ex-wife. She messaged me. Well, we started to interact. I think if I remember correctly, I looked at her profile but didn't message her. I just looked at her profile, and then she looked back at my profile. It shows you like who looks at whose profile. And then I messaged her, and she responded, and we got talking. And it was that she was coming out to England anyway, or something like that. So I decided to meet her in England. She had said she had some cousins here, and she was coming to see her cousins. So we met up in England first, and the relationship grew from that.
So she said she was coming over to meet cousins in England.
Yeah,
I met her in England.
Yeah, I never met her cousins. I don't know where the cousins were. No, at the time, I think she told me where they were. I think they were somewhere in London. There was some information about them, but I never met them. Just took her word for it,
Okay, so what happened then?
We met in England. She come to meet my family. We didn't stay together the first 2 nights, but after that we stayed together. Basically, after a couple of nights, we were light and we were staying together. We were being together and stuff, and the relationship kicked off from that. So she then obviously returned back to Thailand, and then my neighbour, he was going to go out and meet this woman he'd been talking to. So I travelled with him to Thailand to meet my ex-wife, who at the time was my girlfriend, and I spent a few weeks in Thailand with my ex-wife, who was my girlfriend at the time.
And then you got married.
Oh yeah. So I spent some time here with her, and the relationship went on for a good 2 years. I went back to England, and then she came over later in the year for Christmas. She spent Christmas with my family, and then she went back to Thailand, and months later she contacted me and said she was pregnant. So then we started the visa process at that point. But then before the visa, my daughter was born in Thailand premature. So I got the message or the news that she's just been born, and she wasn't due for like another 2 or 3 weeks. So I got an immediate flight the next morning to fly out to Thailand. And I ended up spending 3 months here while we process passports and birth certificates, and wait for my fiance's visa.
All right, and you went back to the UK then with her. Where did you stay? Where did you live?
In the UK, I was still young. I was 23. I was still living at home with my family.
You were 23. How old was she?
At the time, she would have been 29.
29. And
Yeah.
did you live with your family in the UK, and did she join you there?
This is when she come to see me, or just when we got married and.
When you got married and you left Thailand and you went back to the UK, where did you stay?
We got married in England, so she come when we finally got the visa. Because at the time I was here for 3 months, was when there was that civil war on, red shirt, yellow shirt. So that we couldn't process things as quickly as what you could, because sometimes the embassies were closed because of fighting and stuff. When all that was done and we got all the visas and we flew back over there, we were with my family's house for a few months. I went to work and she's at home. We were looking for somewhere small for us both to move to. So it's because living on top of each other was a bit cramped. And but the marriage broke apart before we actually moved into our place. It sort of severed, but I thought it was still salvageable. So in the end, I actually moved into this house by myself because she went off to London.
What kind of arguments were you having?
At the time, I thought they were cultural arguments. She didn't get on with my mum, and I'm trying to think. She would spend her time in the bedroom. She wouldn't really come downstairs and socialise. I thought she was, homesick, struggling to adjust, and there was some cultural differences, So she spent a lot of time in the bedroom.
Did she work?
No, she took care of our little baby.
And were you working?
Yeah, I was working. I was managed to get a work for just warehouse at the time. Straight as soon as I landed, within days, just straight into working whatever I could really. Still looking for something a bit better, but just getting the money coming in. Because obviously I've been in Thailand for 3 months, you see. So I was coming back unemployed. So it's just a matter of just getting the money coming in really.
So at what point did everything just go south?
Well, we got married and she was here on a fiancé visa. So obviously when you get married, you then need to go from the fiancé visa to your spouse visa. So it's a matter of kind of applying for the visa again, for the spouse visa. It come through the post and it was denied. But she was being very secretive about it. She wouldn't let me actually read and find out why it was denied and stuff. And I mean, I wasn't going to, it was very suspicious to me. I want to see it, you know what I mean? And finally I read it and saw it, and it was very clear that she actually called up and cancelled her visa, which was very upsetting to me, but I thought...
Hold on a second. She cancelled her visa?
Yeah. During the process, she requested a passport and cancelled her visa.
Why?
Well, when I questioned her, it was a matter of being homesick and wanting to go home. And, I'm in love with her, so I thought, okay, I wish she told me about this, because I didn't know there was any problems with marriage. We hadn't been fighting. Nothing's been wrong, really, in my perspective. Nothing's been wrong. So I just took it at face value. She was homesick and wanted to go home. So, I supported her. I supported her decision. I was not happy that she didn't speak to me about it first, but I supported the decision. She wanted to go home. But the story was that she was only going to go for a short time. And I say, well, because our baby was still not even 1 year old yet. So I said, well, leave the baby with me. We will look after her. I've got my support, my family and stuff. You go back and see your family. She said her grandfather was sick as well. So I said, you go and do what you need to do, and baby's going to be perfectly fine here. And she agreed to that. To me, we were still married, and it seemed like we were agreeing that that's what she'd do. That she'd go off. It'll only be a couple of weeks, and she'll come back. So she goes off. She actually goes back to Thailand. She comes back to Thailand, and I move into this new house with the baby. But at first, when she first got back to Thailand, there was good communication, video calling. Hello, we were here. So she can see baby, everyone's fine. And then she just disappeared for a week, and I was like, something's wrong here. I tried to contact her sister. Her sister didn't know where she was. Tried to contact her family. They didn't know where she was. I was thinking, like, what's going on? What's going on? And I actually hacked into her email. And I need to know. Your wife's gone. You know, I didn't know if she killed, dead, what. So I hacked into her email, and then obviously it was obvious what's been happening. It was obviously apparent to me. There was loads of messages between her and this guy from London who was staying in Thailand, and it dates back prior to the cancellation of the visa and stuff. You know, as though she obviously fed him a story that she's Thai, single, and in Thailand, and he wanted to meet her. And I guess she saw that as too much of a big opportunity to not go meet him. So she was actually in Phuket with this guy. While I was back in England, yeah.
So what did you do when you found that out?
Broke my heart. I can remember, because it was early hours in the morning. I can remember the following morning. I was sitting on the kitchen, my mum's kitchen floor. I was sitting on, bawling my eyes out. I was devastated, you know, absolutely devastated. You know, I was in pieces, absolutely.
And is that what led to the divorce?
No, it didn't. So I obviously told her, you know, when I finally got hold of her, I told her that, you know, I've seen the emails, I know what's happened, and just gave her a chance to really say what she had something to say, you know, what did she have to say. And at first it was very apologetic. She was crying, she was sorry, and I was torn, because the baby was still a baby. I don't know. A part of me decided to, you know, give it a shot, keep going. You know, we were still I was in the process of applying her a visa again for the spouse visa while she was in Thailand. And at any point I could have just pulled out or sponsorship, cancelled it, but I didn't, because I don't know. I didn't know what the future would be. I didn't know if it would work out, but I knew that I had to make it easy for her to have a relationship with her daughter, and my daughter to have a relationship with her, even if it didn't work out. So at the time, it was more, let's try and work this out.
So what happened then?
She comes back to, well, strangely enough, she didn't tell me the visa come, and she didn't tell me she had a flight to come back. She just comes back, and she just rings me one morning. I'm at the airport, can you come pick me up? And I was mixed emotions, like, well, I didn't even know she got the visa yet. I didn't know that she never said anything to me. At the same time, I was happy, you know, my wife's coming back. You know, we're not a family without her. So we rush off to the airport to pick her up. And like, that you've got your sort of your heart, your emotions, but then you've also got your brain, you know, thinking things over. So I wanted to see a passport. She was reluctant about it, but I got a passport and looked at it, and it was stamped 2 days prior to her saying, I'm at the airport, come pick me up. I was like, you've been here 2 days. And she was like, they stamped it wrong. They don't stamp it wrong at the airport. Telling you, they don't stamp it wrong. It's not possible. They're not going to stamp your dates wrong at the airport. You know, I'm not that stupid. So like, I knew she'd been here 2 days before, but she was adamant she hadn't. And like, once she puts her story down, she won't move. She won't backpedal. So in her story, she hadn't been here 2 days prior to recalling me and saying pick me up, but I knew she had. So again, I just went through the stuff. You know, I needed to know. I went through her personal belongings, and I found the print off that she stayed at this hotel in London, and it was under this name of the same chap that she was getting these emails from. So she obviously been with him, you know, in London. So, yeah.
And that's what led to the divorce.
No.
Okay, we're getting into. All right, keep going.
So, you know, there's more apologies, more crying, and I was young, I was stupid, and she moves into this house with us, and you know, not really been any arguments. There's been a lot of crying, a lot of upset, but no arguments as such. You know, it's hard to really say what I was feeling at the time. But we were living together quite, I'd say, peacefully. You know, but it wasn't. There was no chemistry. There was no intimacy. There was no love. I don't know whether that's because of she cheated on me and I was finding it hard to reconnect with her, or whether she was cold. I'm not sure. I just remember not trying. I remember not trying to be close or sweet or anything. We're just kind of just two people living together, taking care of a baby. And she then said she needs to go to London to do a course because she's a nurse, you see, and she wanted to do nursing here, but she said she needed to take a course before she could do it. and I was looking at closer to home where she could do the course. She'd say, no, she has to go to London, she has to go to London. And I say, well, I found it, it's here, you can do it in Derby. And she's like, no, I need to go to London, I've got family in London, I'm doing London. And like, you know, I can't control her. So she goes off to London, and then she was coming back, at first she was coming back every weekend to, you know, to the family, me and the baby. And a couple of weekends she'd be late, or she would say that she's missed the train, or got off, fell asleep and got off somewhere else or something. And, you know, just more just stories that just sort of start, you know, just you start to hear them too often. It's like, you know, you believe them the first time and you start to question it. And then there'll be weekends where she won't come at all, you know. So one time she finally came out, I went for her stuff. I went on her phone and I looked on her phone, and that's when I knew that we've got to stop this, because I go through her contacts, I go through her messages. She's got, like, on a daily basis, she's got about 7 men she's in contact with, and fresh messages from just days that, you know, she met him that day, she met him that day. It was too much at that point. It was over for me. I told her I was going to file for divorce, and that's probably one of my biggest mistakes, actually, to tell her that I was going to file for divorce. I should have just filed for it. As soon as I told her I was filing for divorce, that night was the very first proper argument we've ever had. And the police came out and everything. We had an argument, and it was about 9 o'clock at night, and she said she was going to go to Sainsbury's, which is just around the corner. And she was adamant she was going to take the baby in a pushchair around Sainsbury's. And I was saying, you know, it's not a time not to take her. It's just, you know, go to Sainsbury's, get what you want to get, and, you know, but not having any of it. And I didn't want the fight to escalate too far, so I gave in and let her put her in a wheelchair and take her across. About an hour passes, or maybe just under an hour, and I thought, like, it's too long. So I tried to call, phone was off. So I actually walked around Sainsbury's, because it was only like 10-minute walk, and it's a big Sainsbury's. But I looked everywhere, couldn't find them. I even went to the security guard at the front where they got the monitors. I just said, you know, I told him, you know, they let me look at the monitors. I couldn't see it, I just couldn't find her. So I sent messages. I obviously noticed the phone was off, but I sent a message saying, I'm going to call the police, I don't know where you are, you know. So I contacted the police, I said, she's gone missing. I explained the situation to him. And she then obviously must have turned her phone off for a reason and saw my messages. And then she called me. And I was in the wrong, apparently. I'm freaking out when I shouldn't be freaking out. She's in Sainsbury's, she's saying. I'm in Sainsbury's still. And then shortly after that, about 10 minutes or so later, she shows up at the house. And then shortly behind her, the police show up. And obviously the police come in, talk to us a little bit. You know, they don't, at this point, the police aren't too concerned. You know, she's home already. There's no sign of any damage, or, you know, no one's hurt. Everyone's all right. Misunderstanding. The police are satisfied and they leave. And as soon as they leave, you know, we're going to another argument. You know, she's not really been the person that's been very argumentative, or, you know, she's very softly spoken. But, you know, this is like, it's her that's raising the voices more than me. I'm being quite logical with her and quite, you know, to the point with her. But she's like being frantic. And I made the phone call to my mum and dad, said, can you come and just collect our daughter for the night? Because, you know, at this point it's like 11 o'clock at night. You know, baby can't sleep. We're having an argument. So I said, yeah, that's all right. We'll come and pick her up. And they came and picked her up. But as soon as they arrived, my ex-wife was like, that was it. She wasn't gonna have it. You know, they were kidnapping her baby. Even though she's abandoned her baby multiple times to go off to London, at this point, they are kidnapping her baby. So she calls the police. And my mum and dad leave before the police arrive, but the police arrived and they obviously talked to me. I explained she's just been picked up by my parents for the night because we're having, you know, an argument basically. And the police were satisfied. They said, well, you know, everything's all right. You know, I know we know where she is. We know who she's with. I've consented to it, and the police leave. And my wife can't accept that. She's like, she doesn't understand why the police don't arrest someone or get the child back or whatever. And the police advise her to stay somewhere for the night. And she calls up this taxi and she goes off. That's it. I don't see her. That was it. But I didn't really see her again. Like, that was it. Well, that night, the relationship on every level was finished.
Where do you think she went?
She went to a hotel. I can't remember which hotel she went to. She went to a hotel because the police told me it was when we went through the divorce. They had all the details where she went that night, and she went to a hotel.
All right, so let's talk about the divorce. You said you're going to fight her for custody of your child, right?
No, at the time it was just a divorce. I just said I wanted a divorce. There was no conversations about custody or anything like that.
Well, what happened with custody? Who has custody of your child now?
Me. I have custody. She has visiting rights. But the argument of that night wasn't really mentioned about custody. My concern was that this same marriage it's not a marriage. You know what I mean?
Did you have a fight for custody?
We did in the courts, yes.
And you won?
Yes.
Why did you win and why did she not win?
I guess I was a more suitable parent.
All right. So then what happened after the custody battle? Did she stay in the UK or did she go back to Thailand?
She stayed in the UK. The custody was an interesting one because I was filing for divorce, and it wasn't until I was at the solicitors filing for divorce that the custody was a question. You know, you've got to do custody. You know what I mean? That's just how it works. So the custody was being processed. It wasn't until we were entered into courts that the relationship got really sort of toxic. You know, things were being said, accusations were being made. I felt like I just wanted a divorce and wanted the best for my daughter. And I felt like, from her perspective, it was a competition on who can win, who's better, you know.
What accusations were made?
Violence, I was aggressive, I was abusive, just stuff like this. She never said, reading her statement, she never said I laid a hand on her, but she felt her life was threatened. I was very aggressive, I'd slam doors and stuff like this. So she felt endangered. But at this time I felt like it was more, rather than give credit to herself to be a suitable parent, she was trying to discredit me to make herself look better. It's what I sort of felt like. I think that was part of her mistake because I was advised by my sisters, despite what I feel, despite what she's done to me, stay on point. Don't turn it into a slanging match. Don't turn it into a throw mud at each other match. So, you know, I stayed on point. You know, I wanted a divorce. Why I wanted a divorce, and I'm fighting for custody because I feel. Well, at the time there was a bit of danger that she would, if she had custody, she could then leave the country with my daughter, and I could never see her again. Basically, she could do that to me. I was never going to do that. I could, because obviously I could show that the relationship started to break down when she wasn't even in the country. I could show that I knew the relationship, what she was doing. Yet I still helped her get the visa, which showed that I wasn't out to stop her having a relationship. You know, it's been obvious from day one that regardless of our relationship, I'm still trying to keep a relationship with her and her daughter. Whereas she never showed that, I guess. I don't think that might have been why I won.
Well, let's talk about the aftermath, right? It all ends, you win custody of your child.
Yes.
You get your divorce. What happens then?
A lot of what was going on was during the courts, because she brought my parents into it, because I took her that night. She brought my parents into the mix, so they had to remortgage the house and pay for solicitors and stuff for themselves, because they summoned to court. She got free counselling and I got free counselling because she went through, I guess, domestic violence, and when you go through domestic violence you get free counselling. So I think that's why it didn't.
How
really
do you mean
cost.
she went through domestic violence?
Well, she was coming into the courts through accusations of domestic violence. I don't know if it's the reason she made those accusations or not, but it just happens that she didn't have to pay anything for the courts because of domestic violence.
You weren't accused, you weren't convicted of domestic violence, were you?
No, but because she applied, the accusations gave her the grounds to be able to have free counselling. What's to my understanding? I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm only on that side of the fence. That was my understanding.
Okay, so
she got free counselling. After my parents, they had to remortgage to pay for their solicitor.
So after the divorce, what did she do?
Well, she was still living in London at this top point, and the court said to her that she can have visiting rights, but not to London. You can't take a child to London for a weekend every time you want to see her. She basically needs to live closer, so she relocated from London to Derby. That was one of the conditions the courts later, that she had to move. She had to live closer.
Okay. And
So
did she get a job? Was she working?
I don't know. It was separated to the point where we weren't even on talking terms. Due to the allegations, I had to really cut myself off from her completely, because the allegations were dangerous for me. I mean, I had to stop having a relationship with her fully, because even when it come to collection of my daughter, she couldn't just come to my house and pick her up, because if she came to my house and I was alone and she picked my daughter up, there's room there for her to make a new accusation, and there's no protection for me. So what we had to do is we had to have we used my family as the middle ground. Like, my daughter would be there for her to pick up from, and that way, my mum, my dad, my sister, there's people there, and just, the monster who I am, I'm not there, you know what I mean? So I didn't see her. I didn't speak to her for about a year. Everything was done through other people, and that was mainly for my protection. I had to. How
about your daughter? Does your daughter still have contact with your ex-wife?
Yes. I still don't have a good relationship with my ex-wife, because for me, if we got divorced, regardless of custody, regardless of everything, we could have had a relationship that we worked together, because we've got a kid together. It makes no perfect sense. Doesn't work if you don't have a good relationship at all. But it was due to the accusations she made why we can't have a good relationship. It's not so much me not forgiving her. It's more that originally it was my own protection. She could make new accusations. She could, so it's never been all right. But now my daughter's 11 years old, you see. So what I know is through her, So I know she's in Thailand. I know she's getting some documents for getting married in England for later on this year.
So there are two sides to every story, okay? Yes. If she's sitting right there on that sofa, what would she say about you?
She would say I was young, moneyless. She probably wouldn't say moneyless, but I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I mean, I was 23, 24. I still lived at home. I didn't have a career laid out. I come over to Thailand, was unemployed, went back and just jumped into agency work. So what I think she would think and what she would say would be different. I think in her feelings and in her mind, I didn't have no money. There was never going to be a future in me. Probably looked at me as a bit of not so much a bum, but yeah, what she would actually say would be that I played video games, I didn't help out the kid. I know what she'd say, because she'd repeat what she said in court, and it was that I played video games, I didn't help her out much, I didn't look after her, I didn't help with the baby. I think and obviously I was abusive.
Would there be any truth in what you just said?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not perfect. Never laid a hand on her. If I ever had raised voices, there would never be. I'm not a violent person. I was bullied at school. I've been punched a lot. I never hit back. Just trying to think if I've hit anybody.
Well, if you have to think about it, that's a good sign.
I don't think I have. Maybe I'm useless in a fight. I'm probably like this. You know what I mean? I've never really hit anybody.
All right, let's talk about your life now. What are you doing over here in Bangkok? You on holiday or what's going on?
Can we see her?
No, she might be behind the camera. There might be a shot of her there, but who's behind the camera?
Who's behind the camera? My fiance. Far.
All right, so Far can't be seen. But so tell us, who's Far? What's the story there?
Okay, so let's just fill a little bit of gaps in. So like we're going through the divorce. After the divorce was all final, when Kane was about 5 years old, I come out to Thailand again. My ex-wife was bringing Kane in to meet some of the Thai family. They'd seen her when she was born, but I hadn't seen her for 5 years. And I was full of fear. I was full of fear that could she disappear? Would she disappear? So I came with them. like I sort of followed him out and stayed close and kept in contact with my daughter and my ex-wife. I didn't know, it probably wouldn't have helped. She could have probably just disappeared, but it made me feel easier not being in England and my baby being in Thailand. So I came with him and spent a bit of time, you know, in Thailand. And that's probably the one other time between divorce and 2019. In 2019, the same thing again. My wife was coming out to bring Cayman to her brother's marriage. She'd come in to attend her brother's marriage and bring Cayman with her. And I wasn't fearful at the time as much. You know, Cayman was now like, you know, 9. You know, I felt safer. And my ex-wife has built a life for herself now with a new fella. I thought it's not likely anything's going to happen, but I think there was still a bit of anxiety in my family and with my mum. So they said, well, why don't you go out there as well? And I mean, it's Thailand. Of course I would come out here. I love Thailand. So I come out here again. And while I was out here, I met Thar. I met my fiance Thar on Tinder. We hadn't actually spent a great deal of time together. We met up for a date, and it's funny because I thought it didn't go very well. So, because I'd message her next day, like, I guess it's a cultural difference. I would message her saying, hi, what you up to? I'm working. Oh, what you up to tonight? I'm with my friend. Or what you up to tonight? I'm tired, I'm going home. And getting that sort of reply back, oh, she's with a friend. I'm not going to invite her out. She's with a friend, she's not going to come. Oh, she's tired. You know, I won't invite her out. So I kept feeling like I was getting a cold shoulder, but I wasn't. She said later on when we sort of got going, she said no. She wanted me to invite her, but I didn't pick that up.
So how long have you guys been together before you proposed?
Physically, we haven't. COVID's kept us apart. After December 2019, I was booked up, paid and booked and everything to come back in April 2020. COVID came, cancelled that, thinking, oh well, you cancel it. I'll come later. I'll come in October. You know, no one knew how long COVID would last. So I suppose it's weird to say, because I mean, the question is, if we knew COVID would be 2 years, would we have ended the relationship knowing that we couldn't meet again 2 years? Possible, isn't it?
So you're doing the whole thing from online?
Yeah.
Online video calls?
Yeah, we've met. I went back to England. The relationship didn't really grow until I got back, because, like I said, I was texting her, what are you up to? I'm tired, I'm with my friends. I didn't feel there was an opener for me to say, oh, well, do you want to go see a movie? I wanted to ask her, but I felt that her responses were not giving me that opener. Did
you propose to her on a video call?
Not... Yes and no, not the conventional sense, down on one knee, a ring or anything like that. It was more like, let's get married.
Looking back on what's happened before, do you think it's wise to marry someone that you haven't spent a lot of time with physically, rather than someone that you've spent a lot of time with online?
It's crazy, isn't it? It's interesting because, as I was saying, there's certain questions that I can't necessarily answer, that I ask myself. Like, I think to myself, if someone said to me, right, James, you're not going to see this girl again for 2 years, COVID, you won't see her, I'd probably think, well, I should end the relationship then. But because we didn't know that, we thought, oh, it'll just be a few months, COVID. We kept the relationship going, and it got to a point where there was no return. I don't know, it was like seeing someone every day on video call, talking to someone every day. Though you're not physically touching, there's still that someone there, there's someone on the other end. You know, you've got someone to talk to, you've got someone to share things with, you've got someone to have experiences with. And the way technology is these days, you could share your screen. I'd open up Netflix and we'd put a movie on, and we both could see it. Yeah, we couldn't be cuddling up in the sofa, but we both saw that movie together. We'd share everything except for physical contact.
Yeah, but physical contact is very important.
I don't know. Yes, it is. I believe it is, yes. But you have a relationship with physical contact and nothing else. So it's not the centre of everything, is it?
So you're not wary of getting into another relationship, or you're not wary of marrying another Thai woman?
I was. Well, first time I met Sky, early on in the relationship, I told her my past. I told her it's put me off marriage. I don't want to marry again. But as time gone by, I guess my feelings have changed. You know, maybe the love for Sky is enough to make me want to marry. Like I've had girlfriends since my ex-wife, but no one's ever made me feel differently about marriage again, except for until I met Sky.
What are you doing now in the UK?
In the sense of
What are you working at?
work. I sell on eBay. I'm a collector of toys, like action figures, posable action figures and stuff.
Do you have your own house?
Yes, it's rented. I don't have a mortgage for it. It's rented.
Okay. And is Fa okay to go back to the UK?
Don't know. I hope so. She feels okay. She says she's okay, but I mean, there's always questions. I mean, until she goes, she's not going to know, is she?
She's never been abroad before.
No, she's just got a passport. Only this year she's got a passport.
So she's never been outside
flown.
Thailand
No.
ever before?
No.
Never flown?
No. She's scared to fly, she is.
Do you think you're taking a risk?
A big one. Yeah, a big one. But I think most people is taking a risk. I mean, everyone takes a risk when they get married. No one knows. You could be married 10 years, it doesn't work out. You could marry longer. There's a risk, yeah. But it's a risk that I feel I can take. It's a risk that I feel I have to take, if that makes sense.
Why not an English girl? Why not date an English girl in England? Why a Thai woman over that?
I've dated,
Thailand?
since my marriage, I've only dated about 3 English people. I have Asperger's syndrome, so I do struggle socially. And I think it affects me more in the UK because people obviously know what the normal is or what they perceive the normal to be. People know if they say something how you should react or how you should to be in certain situations or what's socially acceptable. People know what that is, and I think I struggle. I come from like Thailand where there's a language barrier. It sort of dilutes things. Like people wouldn't really necessarily pick up on anything. What I do would just be like, oh yeah, funny tourist. You know what I mean? They don't expect what English culture expects from me.
Give me an example of something that you do that's different to, say, an English person that doesn't have Asperger's.
It's not so much something that they don't do. If I bullet point list everything personally with my Asperger's, it wouldn't be something that you haven't done or haven't experienced. It's more of a sense that it's heightened. So, yeah, I mean, you must have upset people. We always say something wrong at one point in our lives or upset people, but you learn from that, and it's rare. It doesn't happen often. But like it'd be like, I guess the way I can picture it or explain it would be like certain personality quirks that are all right in moderation. Those dials are slightly turned up higher, I guess. So I might not necessarily. I struggle to understand humor, other people's humor. When someone tells a joke, I struggle to get it or understand it or think it's funny. I can sometimes think it's kind of stupid or pathetic, and it's hard for me to stage, like laugh at the right time. Like a lot of people are fake in the sense that they can laugh when they know they should laugh, even if it's not funny, because it's socially what we should do. I can't. I'm just like, my face is like, what the fuck? But there is moments where I feel someone said something that I don't understand. But I'm very aware of it. I understand it's my problem, not theirs. That it's me that's not understanding it or finding it funny. Not so much that it's stupid to me, but I understand it's not stupid, if that makes sense. But I can't.
So, do you think Thailand makes it easier for you to be here because people don't notice your Asperger's as much? Are you more accepted over here?
I struggled to come here today. I don't stay this area of Bangkok. This area of Bangkok is too busy for me. I like to stay sort of outside this area a bit more, where it's a little bit more slower paced, a bit more quiet. Today it's very overwhelming. Like the differences is like night and day. The streets are full of more people. You go into 7-Eleven, there's more people, and I feel like I can't explain how I feel. It's like I don't know what I'm doing. I can't function when there's too much. I'm good at one-on-one. Like, if we went for a drink, be best mate. If we were in a group of people, I'm in the corner quiet. I struggle. And definitely having Asperger's stops me flying. I can be running, I can be walking, I can be running. I'm never going to be flying. I'm always going to be my potential is always going to be, it's not the right thing to say, but my potential is always going to be a bit lower. But some Asperger's people thrive. Some Asperger's people get jobs that other people can't because they have a skill set other people don't have. There's a lot of Asperger's people that are in architecture. You know, you can get the best jobs in the world being you know, Asperger's or on the spectrum. You really thrive at. But I guess it's weird because I guess I hold myself back out of the troubles that I've had or I've experienced. I hold myself back, but I'm not unhappy. I make less money now than what I have done in the past in other jobs, but I feel happier. I've had other jobs where I've made more money than I could spend. Like, you know, at the age of 8, I think at the age of 18, I had more money than I knew what to do with. That's why I could go back to the UK and come back 3 months later. There's nothing else I couldn't think of anything to spend my money on. I mean, I suppose I should have saved up, but being 18 years old, you don't think like that. You spend it when you get it. So, and now I have less money than what I did back then, but I feel happier. I feel my work and sort of leisure is balanced. I'm not just working all the time and having money I can't spend or don't know how to spend it. I feel like, yeah, I can pay my rent, I can pay my bills, I can treat myself, I can even come to Thailand. I can't just wake up and get on a plane. I'm not got that sort of money, but you know, give me a few months and I'll screw all the money together to get on a plane. You know, it's
James, we'll put it there.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for doing it. I wish you all the best of luck. Whatever happens in your life, keep moving forward.
That's it.
Stay the pace, and best of luck to you, and best of luck to Fa.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. If you enjoyed that, folks, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Thank you very much.